Okay, but how about this betrayal? Because in June of 2008, the St. Louis Blues would select Alex Pietrangelo with the 4th overall pick. And throughout the next decade, Petro would commit his life to the organization, as not only was he developing into a consistent top 10 defenseman, but his immense leadership qualities would grant him the captaincy in 2016. And in 2019, my God, it would happen, as he would lead the Blue Line to a Stanley Cup championship. So, to summarize, we have a franchise 6'3" defenseman. I think that's 2. That'd actually be 2, I think. That counts 2. 2-way defenseman who can play in any role. That's 3. He is the captain of the St. Louis Blues. 4. And he is closely tied to the St. Louis community. That's 5, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know what else to say. So St. Louis keeping Petro to help build the team back into contention makes a lot of sense. Maybe too much sense. Now get this. Factor in that Petro signed a 7-year team-friendly deal worth $6.5 million. And around that time, guys like Dion Phaneuf were signing $7 million deals. So for a 23-year-old top-pairing defenseman, $6.5 million is perfect. However, still fresh off a Stanley Cup, the St. Louis Blues would make a shocking decision, as they would choose not to re-sign Petro, their captain. As Pietrangelo would state, I don't know if frustration is the right word. We tried and we tried and we tried, and sometimes things just don't work out. But you have to think, from his perspective, up until this point, he committed his life to the organization. He won a Stanley Cup, he's the captain, coming off a great contract. He wants his money, and you can't blame a guy for wanting what he is due. However, Armstrong was not biting, and he would actually opt to make a series of free agency deals and trades to replace Petro, as they would trade Dominic Bach, who was a previous first-round pick, Joel Edmondson for Justin Falk, and they would also sign Torrey Krug in free agency. So they had the money, but just chose not to do it. So it was a tough breakout for one side. So it's a tough breakup for one side. Getting on those bizisms. Because here's the kicker. This season, on his new team, after being betrayed, Petro would cement the Blue Line on a Stanley Cup winning team in Vegas, as he would win his 2nd cup in 4 years. Whereas St. Louis this year, maybe they're playing golf, it's summertime, but the team is in the dumpster. Well, Pietrangelo is on the strip partying with his boys.
And look at this guy. Top shelf Howie. The Stanley Cup, ladies and gentlemen.
What's even more absurd is that this didn't just happen to Pietrangelo. This exact scenario happened to Jonathan Quick.
Miraculous stop by Quick to get over. Soft pass shot, bing right there. He has to just get a piece.
Quick was a 2nd-round pick in 2005. He started in the minors, grinded his way up to the NHL, and then carried LA to 2 Stanley Cup victories. He will forever be cemented as a Kings legend. However, on the dark, gloomy day of March 1st, aka trade deadline, the LA Kings committed one of the biggest betrayals in all of sports history. As not only was he shockingly traded, but he was sent to the literal basement of the NHL. The Columbus Blue Jackets.
And what is absurd about this transaction is not only did he have to leave LA, the team he grew up with, but LA in this transaction would have to pay Columbus to take him.
One of their greatest players of all time, and they had to sell him. Highest bidder wins. Jonathan Quick had this to say. Per Saravalli, to say Jonathan Quick is unhappy with this trade, I'm told, is an understatement.
No, seriously. Imagine being Jonathan Quick. You made your money. You're living in your California beach house. You wake up, you look at your hand, you see 2 Stanley Cup rings. Maybe you look over on your shelf, you see the playoff MVP. You get a text on your phone, you're like, what does Donnie have to say about me? And he's like, sorry Jonathan, I know you're a Hall of Famer and all that, but we're gonna make a quick pit stop in Columbus.
However, the story doesn't stop there, because after this bizarre situation took place, not even 48 hours after Quick's trade to Columbus, he was on the move again, but this time to LA's division rival, the Vegas Golden Knights. So at this point, he went from being completely disrespected to now being the 5th option goalie for Vegas. Then it would happen. Not only did Vegas find themselves in the Stanley Cup final, but somehow their starting goalie, their backup to the backup goalie, all got injured. Adin Hill would have to take over the net, and in a match made in heaven, Vegas got a 2-time Stanley Cup winning goaltender to mentor Adin Hill from the bench. And then of course, Jonathan Quick would go on to secure his 3rd Stanley Cup with the Vegas Golden Knights. And if that ain't karma, I don't know what is.